Coming up on today's special 100th episode, Lucid breaks some records, the SN6 hops, and the possibility of nano diamond batteries made out of expelled nuclear waste. And some special stuff. Let's get ludicrous. And welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about all the cool future stuff that's happening today that's gonna make tomorrow, say it with me, totally ludicrous. I'm Joe Scott with the Answers to Joe YouTube channel. With me is my friend and cohort, Tim Dodd.
Hi there, it's me, Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut from that place where you might sometimes put your eyeballs, known as the internet. And with us, as always, is Benjamin Solons.
What is going on with my hair? Oh, God.
Ben, we're
Hey,
live.
guys. Hair. It's Ben Sullins from the interwebs and the things and the former places. And also with us today, we have a special guest dialing in, but he, I believe, is driving right now, so we may have a little interference. Is that, hello, Scott Manley? Are you there? Hey!
Hello, Red 5 standing by.
Wow. For those of you just listening, you are missing quite the visual treat right now. You might want to pop over to YouTube because Scott Manley is in an X-Wing. Scott, how are you?
He is
I'm doing fine. I've got 3 TIE fighters on my tail, and they're bearing down on me. But yeah, I think I got this.
I think you got it.
I've seen this one before as well.
This is perfect. And with us, as always, we do have our Discord channel. Hello, Discordians. How are you guys?
Hey, yo, Bamboo
Discord.
Hip Hop, Theo. Is it Theo or Tail? Because my son's name is Theo, but we call him Tail.
Everybody. We got everybody. Yeah, we got the cool people in here. Rob Speed, Rowdy, everybody. Hi, guys. If you guys want to join and listen to our shows live each week, our recording, you can do so by going to olfpod.com/Patreon. Yeah, there you go. What else do we have that people can do with their time and whatnot?
Well, we're going to spend another 5 hours talking about stuff and nerding out, as if you couldn't tell already. And if that's just too much for you, well, quit your job and just listen to the show. That's step one. But other options would be to just get the highlights on our highlights channel at olfpod.com/highlights. It's a YouTube channel. You subscribe. It's free. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. There's no harm, no foul. It doesn't cost you a thing. So go give it a check at olfpod.com/highlights.
Yeah.
And guys, there's not just 3 of us now. This is the first time we've ever had an extra person here, and what a special person to have.
Yes. Hello, Scott.
You are the most requested.
You are,
seriously.
Besides Elon Musk.
Besides Elon.
Elon.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure I can fit more words into, the time than he will.
Out of all the non-billionaires that get requested, you are.
Who says I'm not a
one,
billionaire?
So.
Ooh.
Well, let's start there.
And
I'm just a billionaire.
Just for
Tell us how
everyone
many
too,
billions you have.
because it's our 100th episode, everyone cheers to 100.
Cheers.
Salud.
What's everyone
Sláinte.
salud? What's
How
everyone
many
drinking?
languages can you toast in?
Salud.
Yeah,
Skål.
Gin.
Prost.
Sláinte.
Sláinte, that's Gaelic?
Yes.
The further we go,
Yeah.
I'll make my own language.
Prost. Jivali.
So what's everyone
Salud.
drinking this evening for those of us partaking in our... This is an evening
Scott,
recording. Normally record in the morning,
go
so it'd be
first.
inappropriate.
I have Hen House Hollow Moon Ale, and it has a chicken with a spacesuit on it. It is India Pale Ale, like 6.5% with a bunch of fun hops in it. Like
awesome.
obviously 1/6 G hops.
I got that.
Joe, what are you drinking?
Just a little bourbon and Coke, but I've got some stuff called Blade and Bow. I don't even know if it's any good, but it does the job. It's Kentucky
It
bourbon.
looks pretty.
So
Sometimes it's looking pretty.
Oh, man.
Ben,
Tim,
let me
what-
guess.
what do you-
Ben, you're drinking mezcal, aren't you?
Yeah, I have a tobala, which is a type of agave. So this is mezcal, which is, it's like a tequila. You can think of it like that, but, better. It's, ironically, it's considered like the scotch of the agave world. So if you're familiar with bourbon versus scotch, it's a similar thing. Like, it's more smoky and all that
You mean
kind of
it's
stuff.
aged in used barrels?
No, it's actually, they do that, but it's mostly just the flavor. It's made actually. It's the agaves themselves are cooked underground in like a charcoal pit, and so it has this really deep, earthy kind of smoky flavor to it. So you know how scotches have a lot of that, whereas a bourbon is kind of like a sweet,
Yes.
kind of plain drink. So that's kind of the analogy there.
And I am drinking the
Balvenie.
Balvenie,
Oh, yeah.
I
Yes.
recognize that label.
a
being
Scotch,
Scottish.
because of the Scott with us. The
I've
Scott
also
who's a
brought
Scott.
white dog buffalo from Buffalo Trace.
Ooh,
And it
I'm a
is
fan of that.
62.5% alcohol. So that is very close to rocket fuel.
Yes, it is.
So that's how they do it.
RP1?
Okay.
Yeah. So you know what? Before we get into news, because we have Scott Manley with us, I just thought it'd be fun because we hear Scott talk about space stuff every week, but what we don't hear Scott talk about every week is Scott. So Scott, give us your elevator pitch on your life, what you've done, what you
How
do
long is
when you're
this
6 years
elevator
old.
ride? I'm a Scottish. I grew up in Scotland. I was a space nerd from the moment I saw Star Wars. Wanted to be Luke Skywalker, and obviously realized that was impossible. Then I wanted to be an astronaut, and no space program in Scotland. Then I wanted to be an astronomer, and I didn't fail. I didn't do that either, but I did study it. So yeah, I run my YouTube thing and my Twitters, and I talk about space, rocket science, occasionally computers, computer security, video games, pretty much cover a whole bunch of different things. And, and I like to basically assume that all of my audience are PhD rocket scientists.
For those of you unfamiliar, Scott's YouTube channel is well over 1 million. You're like 1.1 million. 1.1 million now. I mean, just
Congrats.
cruising along. Yes, congrats. Cheers to 1 million.
Yeah,
Joe?
it's great that people come along and they pay attention for the really hard stuff that I do sometimes.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people, I don't think. What's your actual background in astronomy? How did you become Mr. Astronomy? Because you are actually a bona fide astronomer.
I studied, I did an honours degree in astronomy at the University of Glasgow, who, of course, they're involved in the gravitational waves thing, which we might want to talk about. Then I did another master's degree, and then I wanted to do a PhD, and then I after 5 years, I realized I was never actually going to finish my PhD. But I never stopped being an astronomy person. And when Kerbal Space Program came along, I sort of got into this position where I was doing a little bit of gaming on YouTube, mostly EVE Online, but it turned out that I was like the only gamer on the internet that also knew orbital mechanics and therefore could teach, teach a Kerbal Space Program with some degree of authority. And obviously there's a lot more people who do it really well these days, and it's been a great, it's a great place, a gateway drug, I think is how I would describe it.
Yes.
But yeah, I've kind of stopped really doing Kerbal directly, except to use it to demonstrate various missions, and I run a weekly or bi-weekly event called Runway Project where we build planes and shoot each other down. But yeah, it's that's kind of my background. I just never stopped learning.
So I feel like there's a difference between astronomy and then like rocket engineering.
Absolutely.
And so when you were talking about starting off as an astronomer, I was kind of wondering where you made that turn.
So yeah, and it's all down to Kerbal Space Program, because I sort of knew like physics, I knew orbital mechanics, I knew how to calculate all this stuff. And as I was flying around in Kerbal Space Program, you're setting up your things, you're coasting towards a rendezvous, and there's a lot of downtime. So I would start to fill that with discussions, and then people would make comments, and some of them would point out that I made a slight mistake here or there. And I basically vowed to never make a mistake again.
And you succeeded.
I don't know about that, but I basically have spent a lot of time making sure that I know exactly what I'm talking about. And so it's great when you start reading, there's a lot of information out there, and you can just keep learning. And it's a question of how far you go before you start making the video that you want to talk about, X, Y, or Z.
Wait, you actually have to make videos? This is news to me. I thought
mostly for some things when it's historical, you want to get your research in. But yeah, then I mostly just ad-lib most of my videos, except with the exception of the nuclear physics ones, where I'm like, I want to get the language down exactly.
See, that's an interesting transition there, because I know when me and Tim first became friends, I thought, because my I'm not educated in any of this, but I was always really interested in the astronomy side of it, how planets work and things like that, right? And then me and Tim became friends, and it was all about the rocket stuff, and I realized I knew almost zero. I was like, oh yeah, you just send stuff up, right? But like the interesting part to me was what's out there, not how to get there. And it's been really kind of fun to see Tim's super deep knowledge on that side of it. But it's cool that you've kind of went from one to the other, so you have like the full spectrum there, right?
I mean, I just got a full physics background, and that's the best thing, because you can look at the engineering and you can understand the engineering and the math. And, I also, as I said, I also do nuclear physics, and I'll do some other, corners of physics, whatever's interesting. It's like when I saw SN4 explode, I knew enough about explosion dynamics to talk about the detonation waves and show that it was actually a detonation rather than a deflagration. So physics is great; it applies to basically anything.
On that topic, I had a really good question in the live stream, and this is outside of my knowledge base, so I always thought a detonation wave couldn't exceed the speed of sound.
Oh no, the definition of a detonation wave is it has to exceed the speed of sound.
Oh.
So, wait. So there's actually two things you're talking about. You're talking about the wave emanating away from a fireball.
Yeah.
That's a shock wave. And that is, again, by definition, going faster than the speed of sound. And it's just driven by the force of the explosion. And eventually it slows down. But when you can see it as a shock wave in the air, that's the point when it's going faster than the speed of sound.
Oh.
But a detonation, so there's two types of explosions. There's rapid combustion called deflagration, where you light it and it burns very fast. And then there's a detonation where the thing is mixed so perfectly that the flame front moves to faster than the speed of sound in the medium. And you actually have almost all the energy release happening in this very flat detonation wave moving through the solid. And so that's the difference, right? You have to have supersonic combustion, and just because you have a big fireball doesn't mean you have a detonation.
Well, just like the inside of a rocket engine is not a detonation. It shouldn't be.
You don't want it to be a detonation.
It should not
That's
be a
called
detonation.
a hard start.
Yes, it is. It is a deflagration. It's yeah. Is that what it's
Although,
called?
you do have, of course, when you've got the choked flow, you're basically creating these supersonic flow conditions, right?
Correct.
And that's critical to actually getting thrust out of a rocket, is to choke the high pressure combustion chamber down to this throat, and then from there it expands out at the speed of sound through the nozzle, and the speed of sound actually increases as it goes down. It's fun and interesting.
Can I
The
ask
stuff can't flow back in. That's the whole point.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah. There are no dumb questions.
Does it make all the noise because of sonic booms?
When it's falling back down towards you, that's a sonic boom.
No, I get that, but like if the propellant or whatever is going out faster than the speed of sound, that would create a sonic boom, right?
You don't need to, no. I don't think that's I wouldn't say that's a big part of it, but honestly, I haven't done a huge amount of study into how the sound comes out from rockets. But you do see, supersonic effects when you see those Mach discs. Like that's a thing propagating at the speed of sound in a flame which is going that way very fast. So the waves are sort of standing still in it. It's kind of cool.
I love that.
Mach diamonds are just cool looking.
Mach diamonds are very, very cool.
Yeah. They're just inefficient but cool. It is the most beautiful.
They're kind of necessary.
Yeah. But they're kind of like squealing tires. Like, like when you hear a car just rip, just burning tires.
If your rocket launches and you don't have Mach diamonds, you have overexpanded you haven't expanded your nozzle enough. You've underexpanded.
Yeah, Tim.
Unless it's an aerospike, then you shouldn't have any.
Uh-oh.
Scott scoffs at aerospikes.
Yes, you sure? One of these days, sure. Decades from now, Tim will be, see, I told you, aerospikes.
Hey, I have a question for you. Have you ever seen sorry, this is going to be mostly for the first 20 minutes me nerding out with Scott Manley, because this is a pretty much once in a lifetime thing here. So, Scott?
You know how many times we've tried to have this once in a lifetime thing? Like, every time he's in the Bay Area, I'm elsewhere. Literally every single time.
I'm starting to think it's planned. Like the
last time you came, I was like, sorry, I'm in Europe. I'm about as far away as possible.
There are no coincidences.
Yeah, he sees my Twitter feed.
Flown me first class to the Netherlands when Tim came into town, so we wouldn't meet.
We all
Poor
do
me.
this to Tim.
Yeah, everyone does that. It's a weird thing. Every time I'm like, guys, I'm coming to town. It's like, oh, sorry, I'm in Europe. But have you ever
You
seen?
do have to come out here, and you should bring your suit, and we can shoot you next to the Soyuz in Chabot,
There we go.
where they have a Soyuz capsule.
Yes. Okay, so that might actually get me back in the suit. So Scott, I want to know, have you ever seen the MDean concept?
The MDean?
I believe it's called the MDean. It is a dual expander methane aerospike.
I haven't seen that then.
I think that, to me, that's one of those things. So for those of you listening, one of the flaws with aerospikes is they're really hard to cool because you have at least double the surface areas of the throat. One of the problems with expander cycle engines is you're limited to how much you can heat up and how much propellant you can heat up and expand to spin your pumps. So you can kind of take the two problems and create this unique solution of a dual expander aerospike. And the MD happens.
You're just doing regenerative cooling through your aerospike. I mean, you're going to regeneratively cool your aerospike anyway. Has anybody done any math on it?
Oh, yeah. There's a big old fat research paper in the 90s. And I think it's one of the most fascinating concepts.
I could see that working as a more interesting thing because then you could do like an aerospike with a scramjet. Then that might be interesting. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you'd heard of that one.
I haven't heard of every single concept.
I like how
I usually, I make this up as I go along. We got to remember.
Me too. That's the internet. So, yeah, Scott, so one more question, I think. And Discord, let us know if you guys have any questions for Scott, about Scott, while we're still in this first little bit before we move into our news stories. But I want to know a little bit about, you have a history with online music.
Oh, yeah, totally. I've always been an insane music nerd.
Yeah, the music on your channel
my very
is your
first
stuff,
memory is Bohemian Rhapsody being on the TV and me sort of moving around and my parents being proud I was dancing to music on the TV. Like, that's my earliest memory. That's awesome. At school, I was big into music. I was a music nerd. I was into house music before anyone else because my dad introduced me to it in the 80s. I was a DJ.
Your dad is cool.
Yeah, yes, he was. He was well ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Steve Silk Hurley, Jack Your Body. I knew about that before anyone else in the UK. I was a DJ, and when I was doing the story about how I came to the US is kind of interesting because I was doing my PhD in astronomy, and I was also a music nerd, and I was on IRC, and I was sharing MP3s and stuff. And I got this idea to start making radio shows that you could download, what we would call podcasts, by the way.
Yeah.
And then I realized that as I was recording this to disk, I could just, create a little script so that you could tail the file, right? Go to the end of the file and just play the new stuff. And so I created this live MP3 radio system, which I started streaming radio to my friends and buddies. And next thing I know, I'm part of the IceCast team, who came along a year later. And I get hired to come out here and work on internet music. And again, I continue DJing. That was
at Napster?
I was at MyPlay before Napster.
Okay.
And then I was the last engineer hired by Napster. But I actually knew Napster back from the radio streaming days because he was on, Pound Hack, right? Or
IRC, yeah.
IRC, yeah.
So you must get a kick out of maybe, I don't know. So I wasn't that deep into it, but I started in the internet in the mid 90s when it was very, you got to put the disc in, right? Remember when cable modems came out, and the cool thing was that you didn't have to dial in. You were just always connected. That was the thing. And so back then it was all IRC channels and bots and everything. And then fast forward, I don't know, what has it been, 20 something years, and now Slack is the hottest thing on the planet. And I'm laughing going, this is 25-year-old tech. Why is everyone so hot on this? But that whole era was built and birthed in this whole thing, right? This whole type of tech.
IRC was hacky. Well, it was built on hacks upon hacks upon hacks, and not all the clients spoke all the same DCC features and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that. Although Discord versus Slack, other options. But yeah, I came out to work in tech and music, and then somehow. And also ended up in security and video streaming. But I guess my point is I've always been this person that's been doing music and streaming stuff on the internet, even when I had to write my own software.
Yeah, because we were having problems with even OBS earlier, and Scott's like, yeah, I've helped with or done some coding.
I haven't helped. There's basically, because I was an early contributor to Lame and Og Vorbis, my code has turned up in like millions of products all over the place. There's little tiny, my footprints or fingerprints are probably on a lot of different things, but I haven't touched it in years,
That's awesome.
Do you do anything today in the open source space on GitHub or any of that kind of thing?
You know what? I guess actually I've been working on Kerbal mods. I've been working with developing BD Armory because I did this thing earlier in the year where we wanted to have an online competition where people would design aircraft and they would then fly and shoot each other. And we needed a mod called BD Armory to do this, but I wanted to add new rules, so I kept on changing the mod, and we've published a lot of those changes back in. So that's mostly what I do, but my day job kind of stops me directly contributing to a lot of major products these days because I have a day job in tech and they don't want me to be spending my working hours working on an unrelated software project.
I used to work at Mozilla, and so for me it became a very that's how we operated, was everything was open source, right? All of the code that our teams were writing were all public and all that. So curious. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I don't know if everyone forgets or doesn't even realize about Scott Manley is you're not only a YouTube channel star with over 1 million subscribers, you have a full-blown day job, other hobbies, and most importantly, a family.
A family, yes. They have order of business, family, job, and then my YouTube, right?
Which is crazy because
all my social stuff is like the third thing on my list.
If your social stuff is third on your list and the other two, what's our excuses, guys? This is our job.
This just makes me feel bad.
What are you doing? Sleeping?
Yeah.
I am sleeping.
I tend to be pretty good at doing 2 or 3 things at once.
Apparently.
So I'll be working on some code, and at the same time I'll have a video up, talking about something. It's great because you may not have. It's great for research, for example, to look up a bunch of academic videos on things like. This week I've been watching about synthetic aperture radar, for example, and I'm not really taking notes, but it's just sort of going into my head.
You can do that while coding. For some reason, if I'm typing anything or doing anything, I can't listen to anything.
I guess I've been doing it for long enough.
I can't do that.
I just put Tim's videos on in the background and
and ignore it, right? It just sort of comes in via osmosis, right?
Single stage orbit. Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah.
It's I get the comments that are I love watching your channel as I'm falling asleep. It's
yes.
My favorite comments are I really like how you dumbed this down for us. I'm
and you thought you were being really smart.
That's not my plan, but okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I get the ones I was I'm so glad you don't dumb this down.
Good.
Isn't it interesting though that there's so many people out there that you can be as granular as that, you can be super specific and not dumb it down, be as nerdy as you want, and there's millions of people out there that get it and they want to be a part of it.
Right. I think it's very important that you have to start from a known quantity where you think everybody can understand this, and then take them through every step to how you get to the amazing thing that you have to tell them. And that's why I will make a 15-minute video on something just to get to the punchline about why they thought that they could put a Soyuz in the payload bay of a space shuttle. You had to know the whole context of that. Or, how Chernobyl went wrong was a 20-minute video because I had to get into the whole probable neutron cross sections and moderator coefficients and the xenon pit and decay chains. As long as you can get people from a known point, you can take them anywhere.
Yes.
As long as you're not really boring.
Well, I think that's an old fallacy that entertainment or, the general, Discovery Channel or Nat Geo or Science Channel, they were afraid. They always thought you could only kind of scratch the surface. If you get too deep, people will tune out. And I think the opposite is true. I think as long as you steer them and give them the context to know how to get deep, you can get as deep as you want and people love it. People eat that up.
Yeah, and you don't need the math. You just need to say this equation says that this variable is inversely proportional to this. Therefore, if we make this bigger, this gets smaller.
Right. Yes, you can teach the concepts while you explain the story. And I think maybe part of it is, when you have, again, Science Channel, Discovery, Nat Geo, whatever, you kind of are expected to try to appeal to everyone. And like what Joe was saying, nowadays you can kind of appeal to more of a niche audience, and you don't have to feel like you have to appeal to absolutely everyone. You can appeal to your core audience,
I have 2+ million views on my Chernobyl video, and it goes deep into some nuclear physics, right? It talks about, Doppler broadening of neutron cross sections.
Scott,
right?
Do you think about that when you create your videos in terms of, okay, this video is intentionally going to be for a general broad audience, and I assume they know nothing? Or like, do you plan that, or do you just have, your audience and you go, well, they'll know this, so I'm going to start here and take them here?
I think I want to assume that everyone has a sort of basic understanding that the laws of physics work. That's kind of my base point, right?
Well, it is the internet, so that's
people,
fair.
Right, I just have to sometimes point people at different videos for reference, but I think I generally want to figure out where I want to end up and then figure out all the steps to get there. And very important is that for every step, I have to know the underlying bits, so that if somebody comments about that and, I'm like, oh, well, that's the explanation. And I also need to know one step past where I end up, just because, you want to know that you're not just repeating garbage, right?
Exactly. So I guess one more kind of serious question. You mentioned sleep. I'm totally curious. Like, what do you sleep? I mean,
I do sleep. Yeah, I get a good, 8 hours a day.
That's incredible.
I thought you said you had a family.
I do, yeah.
Well, he has.
You have one of those sleeping
How long do you
babies.
think it takes me to record a video? I mean, I ad-lib these things. It's the adding the photos that takes longest.
Well,
and that's
no,
maybe
I mean,
an extra hour or so.
So you have kids, right?
Yeah,
And
they're
how?
teenagers now.
Okay, there you go. That's the difference. Yeah. So I have a 9-month-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm not allowed to sleep, apparently.
My YouTube really got going when Sky was 4 years old.
Oh,
and
really?
the first video that really got any traction was I was playing EVE Online, and I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I showed all those people that think EVE is hard that a 4-year-old girl can play their game? Right? And that got the clicks. That was so I'm confessing to exploiting my daughter for YouTube clicks, but it launched this empire, and she's now a mostly well-adjusted teenager.
Well, is there such a thing?
Yeah, her
I
music
wasn't
tastes
when
are
I was a
fascinating.
teenager.
Mostly positive, right? Mostly.
This is another really good question from Discord from Captain Kurt asks, have you ever had any U.S. agency talk to you about ITAR, or do you generally just purposefully keep it compliant, or is it just more of like if you know it, it's probably
If I know it, it's probably okay.
Right, yeah.
I mean,
Like public
yeah, so
knowledge.
when I go to places, we will have to obviously discuss ITAR, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did a great visit to Virgin Galactic, and it was kind of at a very short notice thanks to a bunch of amazing fans, and I got a tour, and I talked, and I discovered all sorts of amazing things, and could not release any of it. Mostly because they'd started reviewing it, and then they decided to move to New Mexico, and that kind of messed everything up. But initially they were like, oh, you cannot release any of this. It's all ITAR.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that I know that I generally don't. There is stuff that I have specifically left out of videos, for sure, that I know that may be covered by ITAR, or is
ITAR
most
is
likely
the
just a
thing that
secret.
ITAR is the thing that says don't share space secrets.
Yeah, basically, you're not allowed to show North Korea how to build ballistic missiles. So things
you're
like
not?
fuel injectors.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So my fuel injectors video, technically, it might have had some ITAR stuff in it, but I don't know.
Right.
I just kind of kept it on. I didn't
Like, is there an
include any
ITAR?
math.
Is there an ITAR AI out there scanning the internet for every bit of information? Because I mean, I wouldn't put it past the NSA or somebody, but yeah,
I kind of think that's more that the agencies.
It's not the NSA's job. I'll tell you that.
I feel like the ITAR is mostly targeting the companies to make sure they're not accidentally releasing trade
Right.
secrets
Right.
and arms
or like
secrets.
having
And
a
you know, there was-
contract with them or something.
There was there was like an apocalypse in the NTRS servers. I can't remember how long ago, but they basically took down all the NTRS servers, and it came back up, and a whole bunch of papers were missing. And yeah, I mean, because NASA had been releasing everything, and then at some point it was decided, oh, maybe we shouldn't be releasing these detailed studies on how to build rocket engines. But the truth is, like North Korea mostly gets their engines from Russia, right? They've got all their hardware from Russian-derived designs that may have come from Ukraine or whatever, but it's all former Soviet states, and they've pretty much paid people to leak it.
Right. Right.
Sounds like a solid plan.
It seems like to me, like, I don't know if you've seen Copenhagen Suborbitals has had really detailed videos about their
Their
coaxial swirl injectors.
Coaxial swirl injectors. Yeah, they when I did the injectors video, they came in and they really wanted me to use their footage. And I was very happy because they had some great footage.
Oh, they do a phenomenal job, and they obviously can get away with it though because they're not from the United States.
They're not from the U.S. Yeah,
so they can just do whatever they want.
Yeah, I guess technically I used to be able to get away with it because I was not a U.S. citizen, but now I am. I should be careful what I say sometimes.
You should go back.
The fun thing is the nuclear weapons video. I got I had a few videos on nuclear weapons for sure, and I had at least a couple of people talk to me about it and say, I can't tell you how good those videos are. But thanks, but you make great videos.
Yeah,
that reminds me that there was like a Fight Club. I remember they were talking about making homemade dynamite with some things, and they had to like cut these scenes out because it was people reviewing it were like, yeah, let's not actually tell people how to make dynamite at their house with like orange juice and something.
Right. The sixth video in that series is actually about how you enrich uranium. And I literally included a link to Cody's lab, who made yellow cake uranium and put it on YouTube. And unfortunately, they did take that video down.
Wow.
And I was so sad because there's nothing... It's just chemistry, right?
Right.
But yeah, making yellow cake uranium.
Well, Scott, to be fair, what you consider just chemistry to the rest of us is probably beyond just chemistry.
I mean, well, I could understand it, and I'm not a chemist, right?
That's fair. That is fair.
Yeah, I think I learned most of my chemistry from ignition, right?
Oh, right.
Well, it's all math. I mean, so that means it's easy.
Just no.
Yeah, math is easy.
No, screw you guys.
If you get a hard integral, you just use numerical integration instead. Bang, problem solved.
That's where my brain. Joe, did your brain shut off at that point?
Can I just say I was looking forward to meeting you, Scott, because I was like, he's just going to be a normal guy, and he's not going to be this like super
guy.
genius.
Ask me what my favorite TV is.
I got a good one for
deflating. My son asked me the other day. So I'll ask it to you, Scott. What's your favorite number?
My favorite number is the Ranmanjin Hardy number, 1729.
That's exactly the answer.
It's Bender's serial number from Futurama, and there's a story behind it, and it's basically the lowest sum of two different cubes, I believe.
See, I love that. I love that you have an actual answer. Mine was 7. I don't know because it looks cool. That's.
I also love 206 265.
No idea why.
That is the number. That is the ratio of base to side on a triangle, an isosceles triangle, where the internal angle, the smallest angle, is 1 arc second, and it is critical to astronomy. Like to the point I've seen astronomers that have 206 265 as the license plate on their car. So when you take when you're doing parallax measurements of stars, right? You're basically, the Earth orbits the sun every year, and you take photos of the stars, and as the Earth is in slightly different positions, the stars wobble back and forward, right? And you can measure this in arc seconds. So if you measure the parallax in arc seconds and divide it by 206 265, that's the number of astronomical units you have. Wait a second. No, sorry. No, wait. I got that wrong. Sorry. No. The number, you take the inverse of the parallax in arc seconds. So if it's like half an arc second, that's 2, and multiply it by 206 265, and that's the number of astronomical units. There you go. Bang. Problem solved.
Astronomical units from here to the star that you're measuring, or?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And so that number is so important, right? That distance of 206,265 astronomical units is so important to astronomy that it's been given a name. It's the parallax second, or parsec.
Look at that.
You
Look at
brilliant
that, and it
bastard.
comes back to Star Wars. 12 parsecs.
Oh, yes.
So since you have this love fascination with astronomy as well as space flight, tell me how angry you are about Starlink satellites, and let's mute Tim for a few minutes here.
Oh, well, this is one of these subjects I'm incredibly ambivalent on, right? I have strong feelings in either direction.
Yeah.
And I totally understand why people doing astronomy and taking pictures of the sky are annoyed with more satellites. But yes, having communications is probably gonna win out in terms of in terms of the public argument, right? I will say, however, that as somebody that has actually taken lots of pictures of stars and nebula and other things, I know how to take multiple images and stack them and remove the bad pixels and get a good picture. So I think that it's annoying and it will increase the amount of work that astronomers have to do their stuff, but I don't see, there's a very small niche of things that you cannot do because of satellites now. And other regular satellites are causing that problems anyway. So that's what I'm going to say.
So that's one of those things. I'm going to be speaking with some people from on All Space Considered from Griffith Observatory tomorrow, and I'm excited to hear from them about their ideas of of the impacts and things of Starlink. But one of the things that I think is important is as astronomers, you'd hope that your information, what you're learning and observing, can be shared amongst the world. That's kind of the whole point of observations. And there's still places in the world where you just simply cannot access data. You cannot access information. And I think anyone that's online tweeting that Starlink's ruining the sky are kind of losing the point of Starlink, is that some people literally can't get on Twitter. They can't get on the internet.
Well,
they can't learn.
like half the world or something, right? It's not like a small number. It's a ginormous number.
Well, actually, they could if they used iridium.
Yeah, it's true. Which is definitely cost prohibitive.
So I really wonder, and this is more of a, I don't know, social kind of geopolitical type question instead of a science one, but I wonder. So I used to work at Facebook, and at Facebook, it was, when I was there, it was very early. I think we would all agree everyone was incredibly naive about this utopian thing of like, look, if everyone can connect and share, we'll all be really good to each other. And clearly that didn't work out right. So is Starlink going to be a good thing? Because what you're talking about is bringing on 1 billion or more than 1 billion additional people to the internet. And how is that going to go?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I actually don't see that it's bringing on 1 billion or whatever. I think what this is first of all doing is it's looking for people in rural areas in the US, which is a market which is very well understood because we know how much ridiculous amount of money they already pay to get crappy internet service. So they can already quantify that. People living in the outback of Australia, I think it's really looking for people in first world countries right now that have very hard time connecting.
Yeah.
Because, you're just looking, you got to make money. And it's very nice to talk about bringing, the middle of nowhere online, but I don't see that happening. You might get, towns, say, in certain nations, in third world nations, that will get a Starlink uplink and then use that for their internet service.
The whole
provider.
Town. Yeah.
The whole town will share this, and it will be better than anything they have right now. But
I think one of the things that
I don't see this as an altruistic thing by any means.
But to that note, one of the things that I've observed, internationally is, I've spent time in a lot of third world countries where you saw cell phone adoption rate just absolutely leapfrog the telephone, because the telephone required a physical landline being run to every village and every house in that village. So a lot of villages, a lot of rural places absolutely never once had a single telephone anywhere near them. All of a sudden, cell phones come around, they pop down a tower, and it can service the entire, miles and miles and miles. And so all of a sudden, a lot of people went from never having used a phone in their life to having a modern cell phone. And I can see,
it can serve kilometers.
I can see Starlink doing something leapfrog like that, where places that didn't have the infrastructure to have modern high-speed internet, all of a sudden being able to purchase, like you said, a single receiver, plop it down in their village, boom, they're online.
I mean, I see this as being something that you will find service providers in third world nations will use it. They'll use it to power their cell towers, for example, if it's possible. Because of course, you then have to deal with the fact that some countries will try to outlaw it. Like Russia's trying to outlaw OneWeb. In fact, they've made it illegal for OneWeb to operate there.
Wow.
Despite the fact that they're launching their satellites.
That was something I thought was interesting, because the whole like net neutrality thing, I mean, Starlink could kind of just ignore anything like that and say, we're going to do whatever we want. It's our own version of the internet, essentially.
Well, but they're based in the US, so unless they spin off a shell company, and then they would still be subject to US. They could still be subject to US like
FCC
law enforcement. Let's say,
I mean, it's Elon, right? Elon could buy an island and declare and create his own new country on his way to, and I think then you could do whatever you want. I think there's ways to get around that, but yeah, it's an interesting thing about how I wonder if they would say open source the plans for the receiver, what is it, a phase array, something or other?
Yeah, phased array, yes. Phased antenna.
Yeah, I wonder.
Actually, it has to be a transmitter, but yeah.
But I wonder if they would open source some of those plans. So let's say people in a place where it is banned do it anyways, right? They can build their own hobbyist.
They couldn't make their money though,
right? I mean, anyone can build a phased array these days. The technology's out there, but back, the funny thing is, like back when Star Wars was released, phased array antennas were like super classified secrets. That's why the Millennium Falcon has like a radar dish. Right? A lot of the space they have radar dishes. Now, you don't see radar dishes on planes or anything because they all use phased arrays these days, because science is it's well understood and anybody can build a phased array antenna.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this clip from our show. If that's just not enough for you and you want to watch the full episode, you can go to olfpod.com/YT.
And if you want more from us, you can consider becoming a Patreon member. You'll get early access to episodes. You can join our awesome community. You can actually watch us record live and get your name in the credits by going to olfpod.com/Patreon.
So thanks everyone for watching. Check back every Friday for new clips here and new episodes on the main channel.
Thanks everybody.